such that then we get started. Just want to make sure that we are on the same page. Let me see if you're able to see me or hear me. Okay, I can see and hear. Thank you, Vivian. All right, good. Welcome. It's Ethan Musolini, the Merchant of Success. I'm the CEO of Success Africa, and I would like to thank you for coming for this particular segment on how to run productive virtual meetings. And in this particular segment, it's very important because the world is going virtual. The world is neither flat nor round, it's now virtual. If I was to say that, if I was to look for something clever to say, that's how I would frame it, my friend. Yes, the world is now virtual, and of course, meetings always happen. Most people now have virtual meetings at Success Africa. We have virtual meetings we have virtual meetings daily apart from Sundays. So that's how the world is, and therefore this is extremely relevant. And in case you don't know me, my name is Ethan Musolini. I do human resource consulting and training, and I've been doing this for the last since September 2003. That would be close to 17 years as we speak. So September this year, I'll be celebrating 17 years of engagement and doing what I'm doing at the moment. And I do human resource consulting, training, I do coaching, life, career, and business coaching. So that's what I'm engaged in. That's what I do. And by the way, just to let you know, in the background, Julia will be joining us, will be the moderator. So in case you have something critical to raise, you can just type in a message. She'll be able to respond or alert me in the background. She's a consultant at Success Africa. And of course, we also have other team members from Success Africa. Some were already in the room, others will be joining us a little later. We have Kabugo, Pasca, and Pamela as consultants. We have Daniel Moiti, who does procurement and admin. We have Samantha, who does social media, and then also Andrew, who heads IT and social media also. So that's the team, full-time team we have at Success Africa. And without much further ado, it's already 11:34. So we are going to, let me see if I can pull up my slides here so that we get rocking and rolling, as they say, yeah. All right, so let me know if you're able to see if you're seeing my slides, let me know and say, yes, I can see the slides, so that I know that I am in the game, so to speak. Let me see if someone has typed in a message yet. Okay, all right. Okay, so I can see the slides. Perfect. All right, so today we are going to talk about conducting productive virtual meetings. And what shall we cover today? There are a couple of things we shall cover today. And by the way, some of you could be watching this live on Facebook. You can also type your questions there. Then they will be transmitted to us, and then we take it from there. This is what we are going to cover today. Preparing for productive online meetings. We'll also talk about strategies for running an efficient online meeting. Then we'll talk about how to encourage active participation. And these are some things, some important things to note. One, virtual meetings are going to be the new normal, okay? Just the same way we would say, let's meet in the boardroom. Now it's let's Zoom. That's the new normal now, my friend, like I mentioned earlier. So before, whenever you'd hear of a virtual meeting and online, it would be like, wow, okay, that sounds modern, that sounds cool. Now it's going to be the new normal. And like any other change, it's about adapt or perish. Now, whatever technology you use, you'll encounter some challenges. That's life. That's how things work, so to speak. Now, virtual meetings come with their own dynamics or their own challenges, so to speak. Now, here are some of the challenges. One is there is no observable body language. Of course, if I had wanted to make sure that all of you are engaged on video and then I'm able to see you on the screen, there are those options on, say, Zoom as an example, but still you can't see the whole body. You'll see just the upper part typically or just the face. You cannot see everything. So there's no observable body language. Like right now, I know we have participants in the room, so to speak, but I'm not seeing you. Okay. Then power issues. I've had challenges, even at Success Africa, where some of my colleagues, you hear, oh, I don't have power. Or internet issues. You find the connection is not as clear, or someone is, fading in and out, and they have to resort to chatting. One of our consultants says, sometimes they may sound, it sounds metallic. And I'm like, what do you mean by metallic? So I had to learn a new word around the word metallic. The other one is that there are immense distractions. Typically, you find there are distractions all over the place, depending on where you are at or which home you're operating from. And that can really be a challenge because distractions can really be costly. Because when you talk about distractions, then you wonder what could be happening. And distractions come in all forms, shape, they come in all forms and shapes. So you can never know how they're going to pop up, but that's what it is. Someone will be knocking, my daughters would knock, not find a solution around that. And they are distractions, and that can really be a challenge. There are unending and various meetings in a day. Kabgo was telling me, who's one of our consultants, that one of our clients called and said, can you tell Ethan to talk about how do we manage dealing with the 20 online meetings in a day? Well, of course, that's another matter if they are 20. I'm not sure whether they are 20, but you get the point. Sometimes they can be so many, and they can also be draining, to be honest with you. It's not like when it's face to face, the beauty is you can hug, you can give each other high fives, you're seeing someone in full force, in their full body, so that can also be more energizing. Unlike when you're just speaking to a camera, that can be a challenge. And as such, there's low heart-to-heart connection. So here you're really connecting to the camera. There is very little not face-to-face, but heart-to-heart connection. And now let's talk about preparing for productive online meetings. And so it will also be good, before I talk about preparing for these online meetings, please go ahead and share what challenges or what challenge do you face when it comes to these online meetings, such that I get to know where you are at, so that I can know how to address you personally, and in case there's something missing in the presentation, I can highlight it. And guess what? Also, when you share what you're going through, what your challenge is, it may remind someone, and then it may remind someone of the same challenge they are going through. And then when I answer that challenge you have mentioned, then they also get the value of feeling like, wow, I got an answer I was looking for. So let me give you a second. Never like that word. Let me just give you a few seconds. Just type in the chat box. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to, having productive online meetings? Or any online meetings that you've been engaged in of late. So please chat away or type away, and then I get to know as I take a sip of water. what's your biggest challenge? Or what are some of the challenges you're facing when it comes to running productive or effective online meetings? Okay. Yeah, Shamim says people cutting you off when you're still talking. Yeah, that's a big one. Ronald says poor internet connection leading to unclear audio. Yeah, that's a big challenge because I mean we had to change the technology for one of the webinar softwares because of internet issues. People saying hello all the time, very distracting. Yeah, they were. It's like those guys on the mic who hold the mic before they speak, like, hello, hello, hello. People saying hello continuously. Yeah, it can be destructive. Lillian says home disturbances. Yes, they are a big challenge. And Lillian, I suspect you could have attended, but we did a webinar on minimizing distractions while working from home. So Julia, if you are able to pick up the link to the replay page for that, that would be useful for some of us. So we may not talk about dealing with the home disturbances, but we did a webinar on that, okay? And Ronald says feedback from other people when they do not mute their speakers. Yeah, please, I hope, let me see, now that you're reminding me, let me confirm that all of you are muted. Yes, you are. And that's the beauty with Zoom, you can mute people. And so, but when it's time to share, I will unmute you, of course, then you'll be able to speak. Okay, Pascal says, not sure whether people in the meeting are paying attention. Yeah, that's a big one because I mean, someone could be logged in and then you just, they could log in and they walk away. So you're never sure. But at least given the fact that you're engaging, that tells me that indeed you're in the room and paying attention. The fact that you're responding to questions, that tells me you're engaged. So that's cool. I like that. All right. So preparing for productive online meetings. Let's roll. One is make sure that there is an agenda, a clear agenda and intended outcomes. And here is another biggie. Stick to the agenda. And actually this principle that I'm sharing with you, most of the principles I'll be sharing besides the technology and all that and how you look at the camera and all those other basics, then these principles, most of the principles cut across. Have the agenda with the clear outcomes, but also stick to the agenda. Talking about the agenda, I remember one time I was conducting a training for one of the big organizations that was still under Success Africa. And one of the points I highlighted was, the notion of staying away from this concept of any other business, A or B. And I'm like, what do you mean by any other business? If it's not a valuable business, let's not have it on the agenda. So I've never been a big fan of A or B. So instead, what I like doing is once we have the agenda, is there anything else you want us to add or remove from the agenda? So if it's important, then it's on the agenda. If it's not important, then it's definitely not on the agenda. So stay away from this concept of any other business. Time. Set time limits and stick to them. Join meeting at least 5 minutes before time. I know at least all the webinars up till now, we've always been starting them on time. We actually usually start 5 to 10 minutes earlier. It's just that today we more or less started on the dot, like 1 minute before time. But it's always better to and I noticed a few of us were there before time, which was good. And that's what happens. You see, it's better when you do that because sometimes there are login issues. I recall there's a time I was supposed to do, it was some live session on Facebook. So I, I said, okay, let me just log in, say 2 to 3 minutes before time. Boy, it took me about 10 minutes because it was logging me in and out. Sometimes the technology does not work properly, or sometimes Zoom does not connect quickly to Facebook. These days, they are much way better. So if I had come in way before time, then I would have appeared for my live session on time. The good thing is that I had the internet connection was fine and all that, but that's what happens. You don't know what might happen with technology. So a couple of minutes earlier, and I know we've been doing that over and over again for the last couple of days. So Vivian says, I agree with you about login issues and logging in early. Yeah, and I like the fact that Vivian, you've been attending most of our webinars, so well done, and also contributing. Then I need to pull up this other bit. Also know who's responsible for what during meetings, and have people prepare for any necessary documents. So what I mean by that is you could tell people, hey, please can you forward your documents, can you forward your reports, we'll be talking about this, or can you do this, can you send us the previous minutes ahead of time, or can you send us your slides as we look at them ahead of time, so that when we get into the meeting, we just give you specific feedback. When you do that, it really accelerates the amount of time you can save way ahead of time. So when you don't communicate that, it can be a challenge. Okay. Okay, Vivian was saying love it. Okay, she meant she loves our webinars. So thank you, and I'm glad that you really love it. And just give me a moment. I need to close the window because I'm hearing some sounds of neighbors. All right, sorry about that. Hopefully by recording, by closing the window, hopefully the sound will be a little less. Some neighbors doing some works. Okay, cool. Let's talk about technology. Test your technology. A lot can change. So my coach always says we usually meet over Skype for our weekly meetings. And he always says, Ethan, always test your Skype, because there's a time we were supposed to meet and for some reason Skype couldn't work on that day. And we lost about 30 minutes. He says, no, you should have tested it. And here is another quick tip that he gave me, which is very useful, and that is have a backup account. So he was telling me, no, why have one Skype account? Have two, it's free. So I was like, wow, that's a good idea. So that's in terms of the technology side, apart from testing your technology, have backup accounts. And also, when I say backup accounts, for example, with Skype, you could have two, then have Zoom, then then just know how to use these other technologies, whether it is Teams, whether it is Blue Jeans. I don't know whether Blue Jeans whether they have a free version or not. WhatsApp call, Julia says, and Vivian says, I agree with you totally on technology. Yeah, so have those backups with you, because then you don't know what might happen. So I recall, for example, one time I was supposed to talk, going back to the Skype experience, I was supposed to have a coaching call with my coach. It didn't happen. I recall there's a time where I quickly switched to Zoom. I created a Zoom link quickly, and boom, off we went online. I recall recently there's a technology we were attempting to use at Success Africa. It didn't work out properly. My colleagues attempted twice. I believe we attempted like 3 times. Things could not work out. So we switched back to Zoom. So if we didn't have the option for Zoom, it would have been stuck. And there's another technology we also, actually there's a third one we attempted, didn't work. I don't want to mention names here. So that's what happens. You need backups. Okay, cool. Then in terms of freedoms of engagement, what other people call like rules of engagement, what we should do or shouldn't do. Number one, mute when you're not talking. So that should be like part of your psyche and that's what it should be. So just have the discipline to note that if you don't, you may create unnecessary noise. Then the other one is raise your hand before you speak. Literally, at least most of the tools I've played with, when you have an issue, there should be a way to raise your hand. At least for Zoom, they do. Then here is another tip for you when you raise your hand. Once you've finished speaking, put your hand down. Because again, these principles are related to even when you're working face-to-face. It's just like once you're in a physical meeting and you put up your hand, the chair picks on you, you speak, and then you keep your hand up. The chair will say, okay, anything more? You have something else to say? That's what will happen. So in the virtual world, when you keep your hand up, the moderator or the panelist will think that, hey, this person has something else to say. Because I've had experiences where I say, hey, so you still have something to say? Like, no, sorry, I forgot to put my hand down. So always put your hand down. Put your hand up when you're going to speak and put your hand down when you're done. Then communicate early in case of challenges. What I mean by that is, for example, I know yesterday I was supposed to have a meeting, literally something critical came up and I had to communicate to my colleagues that, look, this won't happen because of ABCD. So there was that communication. Now, let's talk about strategies for running an efficient online meeting. In terms of the tips I've given you so far, are they making sense? Is this making sense? Is this adding any value to you? Is this clear? So I need to know, because again, when I hear from you, it gives me an idea of where we are at, or what we are, whether we are off target or on target. Please let me know whether so far all is clear and helpful. You can type in the chat box. Okay, clear and helpful, cool, fantastic, clear, that's great. Now let's talk about strategies for running an efficient online meeting. Number one, let's talk about the technology. Is it well known to everyone? Is it easy to use? One of the reasons why we are using Zoom, for example, as of now, at least as of today, it seems to be, the big word, it's Zoom. So in future, it won't be Zoom, then it won't be, let's meet, it will be let's Zoom, okay? It seems to be the most popular brand at the moment when it comes to online meetings. Then do you have backup in case this technology fails? I've talked about that. Does your technology allow for screen sharing? For me, this is very important because a meeting is not just about face, it's also about, are you able to share other visuals? So at least you're able to see the slides. Use video where possible. Note the signal can be better without it. So there are moments when you may notice that the signal is not as strong. For example, part of what I do is I do online coaching using most of my clients who are outside Uganda. I meet them over Skype. And I notice that once in a while when the data, the network is not as clear, when I switch off video, then it's much clearer. So just note that there is value in the connecting face-to-face, but at the same time, when you switch off video, in case there are network issues, definitely switch off video. Also ask yourself, is it the best you can use given the circumstances? And of course, I'm not going to define that for you. There are moments whereby it's even better to use a phone call, not these other fancy technologies. It could be a 2- or 3-way call. it could be more useful that way, depending on your situation, depending on your circumstances. So that I'm not going to ask to, so my job is to ask you, these are questions you should be asking yourself, okay? Is it easy to use? Now, let's talk about the process. So I've finished the technology. Now, next step is to think about the process. Number one, appoint a meeting moderator. So in this case, our moderator is Julia. So later, you might hear her chip in, and she keeps updating me on some things I need to pay attention to, or if something pops up that I hadn't paid attention to. Then have a co-facilitator in case the other person gets a challenge. So like right now, in case of any challenge, like right now as we speak from my end, Julia will take over. She has the access to take over. So always again think about the backups, because I'm sure you've ever been on those online meetings where someone goes off and everyone is stuck. Okay, what happened? What happened? Is he still with us? What's wrong? What's going on? But when there is a backup, that helps. Communicate and stick to the agenda. That's very important because it shows the other team or the other people that you are respectful of their time. That's why one of the reasons we start on time is exactly that. We want to stick to the agenda that we told you. We told you 11:30, so 11:30 the room was open. Okay. Then clarity of outcomes. To say, okay, by the end of this webinar, by the end of this meeting, so, and this is not just for meetings, but it could even be for a training. That's why today I told you that, look, by the end of this webinar, we would have learned 1, 2, 3, 4. So they are clear. And therefore, I've set an expectation in your mind. When you set expectations in people's minds, then that gives them an idea of what to expect in their hearts, and therefore when they have such an expectation, it also raises their levels of attention. But when they don't know what to expect, they don't know the time, they don't know what to achieve, then you may lose their attention. Share visuals. So you can see I've been putting some images in some of the slides. Visuals are very, very powerful. Also record and have someone take minutes, share their notes. So there are some tools. One of the tools that I use for recording, of course, like Zoom has an option to record. And there is another tool I would highly recommend, which I've used for years. Well, if you go to pamela.biz, like the name pamela.biz, I believe it's about $30 or so, and it's a lifetime license. Once in a while, it breaks down, and it's brilliant at recording Skype calls, but you can record anything where there's audio really. So I find it very useful in that you record and then you can extract the custom recording, then you can mail it to people. At least that's what I've been using for the Success Africa team. So when you record and share with people, it helps. Then of course, have someone take minutes. And then, so besides me, for example, recording, there's always someone on the call that takes minutes and then mails them to people. That is always very helpful. Vivian is asking, did I say pamela.biz? Yes. Pamela.b for box, I for India, Z for zoo. Okay. Lillian says very clear and I'm learning. Okay, cool. Let's go, let's roll. Then the other one is they encourage the team to be audible continuously. So assuming someone is not as clear, and I've seen this happen often in the meetings we've been engaged in, is, engage, challenge people to be more audible, because when sometimes because they feel like the laptop is here, therefore they feel they can speak in whatever tone they can, because the laptop, if the laptop can hear me, therefore people out there can hear me, and yet that's not the case. So you have to challenge people and say, hey, can you please raise your voice? Can you please speak a bit louder? When you do that, that always helps a lot, okay? Then conclude with a clear way forward. Who is doing what and when? Okay. So meaning we say something along the lines, okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And again, to recap, we've agreed that Joan, you'll send the report tomorrow. Jane, you will be driving to Kampala on Thursday. And James, you are the one to convening the meeting on this date. And so and so you're sending the report to the donors, or you'll be making 10 sales calls, something like that. So, and then you say, okay, is that clear? Are we on the same page? And in case you missed something, someone will tell you. If everything is clear, you'll say, yes, very clear. And then off you go. Then even the person who is capturing the minutes, it helps them a lot. Okay. Then on the people, first of all, before the people, is the process clear? Is this, I just want to double check to make sure that again, we are on the same page and always clear. Is this clear? Is this helpful in terms of the process? I just want to make sure that the process is clear before we go to the next segment. Okay, very clear, cool. All right, I'm glad that it's clear. Then we can roll to the next segment. All right, let me see. Someone says clear. Ronald says yes, it is. Vivian says very clear. Cool. Okay. The people. Let's talk about the people. Number one is take interest in their personal life. Find out how they are doing. Like especially during this period, not just this period, how are you and your family? I always like asking that. How's your health? So when you show interest in their personal lives, then they will be interested in your work or whatever it is that you're doing. So also, like in this time, remember they are working amidst new challenges and environment. So be patient with some of them. There are people who adjust quickly. There are people whereby it takes them a long time. So I feel I'm one of those people who can adjust quickly, possibly because I grew up in very challenging circumstances. So, I mean, it's my background is from a background of a lot of poverty. So we had to hustle, so to speak. So meaning I can adapt very quickly. But there are people who whereby it takes them time to adopt. So you just have to be careful also as a leader or as a team leader or when you're running meetings to be aware of that. Also, invite only essential attendees. What I mean by that is not every meeting is for everyone because I'm planning to do like a report of like virtual meeting fatigue because there are people whereby it's meeting after meeting after meeting, even when they are not necessary. So you just have to be aware of that and just invite only essential attendees, those who must be there. Just like email, when I'm advising people, training people, I always advise them, please, only copy in the people who are responsible, who are relevant. It's not everyone, you don't have to copy in everyone, just in the same way you don't have to invite everyone. Invite those who matter. Then encourage people to take their roles and participate. Because there are people who will not participate unless you call them out. So please call people out, let them participate, let them engage. Now, also use video when video is necessary. Use it. There are moments where you have to demonstrate something. There are moments where you have to show something. I recently saw that like there is a software which can mirror what you're doing on the phone. I was like, oh wow, that's cool. I got to know about that about 2 months ago. So you can plug your phone and then you can train people on how to use different functions of their phone and they can see it on the screen the same way you're seeing my slides. But the key thing is when video is necessary, use it. Okay. Now, when it comes to video and you're doing this video, number one is minimize body movement. I've seen people do, the other thing I had to do was talk about ABCD and then, by the way, these other things, I'm not, so let's talk. Again, I'm not saying that you become stiff. I've also, the extreme is people who are stiff like this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to talk and see and make sure that things are happening. No, that's robotic also. Have some life, but do not overdo it. Do not overdo it, but so the key thing is to be in the middle. You don't want to be robotic, and you also don't want to be too, all over the place. So minimize, I should use the word, use moderate body movement. And the other thing is also when I'm teaching people public speaking, I told them to use gestures and at chest level, because then when you use gestures, people are able to get to connect with some of the points. Because you can say when I say connect, it makes sense. It adds more value when I say connect. So you can demonstrate some of these things. Now with video also, you use eye contact through the camera. This apparently I learned about a month ago for some reason. So before I would, so let me show you what I would do before. Let me first stop the sharing, etc. So what I would do before is I would just actually be looking at myself on the laptop. So that's what I would do. But you see, when I'm looking at myself on the laptop, it's a little different from when I look at the camera. I'm sure when I look at the camera directly, it's as if I'm talking to you. So please tell me what's the difference, whether the difference I'm explaining makes sense. You see, before I would be looking at myself on the screen of the camera, and not on the screen of the laptop, I beg your pardon. So I'll be looking down, that's it. Or whoever I'm engaging with, I will be looking at them on the screen of the laptop. But then I later learned that, you know what, the trick is you should be looking at the screen of the laptop, not the screen, the lens, I beg your pardon, the lens. I believe when I look at you through the lens, it's as if I'm talking to you directly. And if that's what you experience seeing, please say yes, yes, whether yes it is, okay, seeing Ronald saying it. Okay, so if what I'm explaining makes sense, please let me know and say, yes, it makes sense, the camera, yes or no, or it doesn't, whether you see a difference. So what I want to know is, okay, what happened? I need to move something here. First of all, is what I was explaining making sense? Was there a difference in terms of, like now, for example, when I'm looking now on the words below, I'm sure my assumption is that you don't feel like I'm connecting to you compared to when I'm looking at the lens, okay? Is that what you're noticing? Yes or no? You can either say yes or no. All right, Ronald, yes. Ronald says, yes, it makes sense. Yeah, that's a big tip out there. When these guys are like, wow. See, sometimes it's the simple things that make a big difference. Always look at the lens of your camera on your laptop or machine, whatever you're using. Dress the part. Now, dress the part, what I mean by that is just because you're at home, that doesn't mean that you just put on a sleeveless t-shirt and you seem like you don't care or something. When I say dress the part also, I'm not saying that you have to put on a suit and a jacket, unless of course you have to. If you are going for an interview, my friend, you better dress formally. But if it's meetings in general, smart casual is fine. I usually put on my shirts, that's okay. I don't put on ties. People don't know, people's expectations when it's an online meeting are a little lower than when you're going to meet them face to face. Unless it's a very formal experience, like you're going for an interview, there, my friend, don't mess around. Be conservative. It's what I tell some of the clients I coach when they're going for oral interviews. Keep good lighting. So I'm sure I'm clear. So what I do is the light from the window is coming directly from, so I'm just sitting opposite the window. I opened the curtains, and then that way I'm able to get more light with me. And of course, there's a bit of light from up above, so it's able to bring some light over my head. That way I'm able to get a bit of light, so to speak. Okay, oops. Okay, So with that particular segment, let me know if that makes sense when it comes to video. Is that helpful? Is that clear? As since my neighbors have started doing the works, I can open the window again. Let me know if this makes sense, and see. Very helpful, Vivian says. Makes a lot of sense. Ronald says, sure it does. Good, 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 good. All right, then let's roll. How to encourage active participation. And we're going to use the PROMS model. At Success Africa, we like using models and frameworks, something that you can hang your mind around. So typically you'll be seeing at least a framework or two for every webinar that we run. PROMS. P stands for professionalite moments. It's not a one. When I say professionalite, just to have to put this with a grain of salt. If you have a professionalite, perfect, well and good. At Success Africa offices, we have some professionalites that we use. Of course, like here, you know, I don't have access to those lights, but also like now, you can't just use natural light. I'm using natural light, and I believe it should be enough for now. So all I'm saying is, when I say professional light, does not mean bold lights. It just means just make sure you look professional with the, at least in a visual way, so to speak. And when we talk about and when we say professional light, also the other angle of being professional and light, or to have light moments, professional light moments, I beg your pardon. Yeah, my mind had wandered off, apologies. So professional light moments means once in a while, it's okay to have some sense of humor. I notice sometimes I laugh at myself, and that's okay. So, of course, do not bring in off-color jokes, especially if they refer to, there are some subjects that are quite sensitive, let's say gender, religion, and all that. Politics, you have to be careful depending on where you are at. So, but if it is just a profession, I know sometimes like at Success Africa, we sometimes tease people, say, hey, look, what happened? When are we coming for your wedding, you know? And you know, but of course said in a light-hearted manner. But also that's the culture we have at Success Africa. We know that we can tease anyone at any time, so we have that culture. So again, this is just to be aware of the culture, and I'm hopeful that your organization has a light culture. And light does not mean you're being unprofessional. So we joke, we laugh, but then when it's work, it's work. Then the other one is rotational meeting chairing. So I know that this is something, oh, these guys are back. And the thing about rotational meeting chairing is, I know at least for Success Africa, that's something we were doing over and over again. It's just that with the technology, we are yet to figure out how to, because you know, we have some of us whose networks are not as strong in terms of internet. But other than that, we've always practiced the rotational meeting chairing, because then it empowers other people. So if people have good internet connection, please, rotating meetings, who is chairing, so long as the agenda is clear, is always very helpful. Then there's what we call the 1 hour rule, top of the hour break. And when you do that is, again, you keep it within that 1 hour, because past 1 hour, usually people are tired, or if not, then you can just, if they are tired. Shamima, I can see your hand is raised. Kindly, you can type in a message, and then Julia will be able to respond. Wait a second, yeah. So the 1 hour rule. So after 1 hour, you can give people a break. to stretch, to turn their necks, whatever it is. Give them a little bit of a break to refresh. Then you need to do more listening than talking because it helps a lot when you can listen in. So ideally, if we had a lot of time, I would let everyone speak up and all that. It's just that I prefer bringing that at the very end so that we cover as much ground as possible. But when you're chairing, your job is to listen. Now I'm a facilitator. My job is to transmit information. But when you're chairing, please, your number one job is to listen. The S stands for shared agenda. Can the team develop one ahead of time? So if people can develop the agenda ahead of time, the better. Because rather than starting to create the agenda in the moment, it can be a big challenge, okay? So kindly give me a moment. These guys have started doing their works again. Let me close the window. All right, we are back. So that's the prompts to create engagement. Now, before we, so now that's how to get people's engagement. So what I would like to hear from you is if you can type in the messages and I can give an opportunity to one person. And this is what I would like to hear. And if someone has something to share, if you want to get on audio, and I saw, if you really want to be live and to share verbally, you can also do that. I have an opportunity at least for one person. What are some of your personal tips on how to make online meetings productive before we wrap up? I would like to hear, you can share or you can raise your hand and then I can pick you up. See. Yeah, so I would like to hear what are some of your personal tips on how to make meetings productive. Vivian says, be prepared for meetings. Yes, that's always important. So what, I'll give you a personal experience I had. A couple of years ago, I was on the, I don't remember which country I was flying from. We're coming back to Uganda. And I don't want to mention the public official because then you will know. So anyhow, that guy who is a big shot was coming from an international conference. And this is what he said. He said that, when we go for these meetings, there are many people whom you find they are really, really prepared. And you find then when there are critical decisions to be made across the African continent, most people are not as prepared. But guess what? They're very keen to go and do shopping. And if we carry that analogy back to the boardroom, to where you work from, so are you always prepared? Do you always know what you're supposed to be talking about? Do you prepare the handouts ahead of time? Do you research all these other things? Shamim says, share the agenda prior to avoid wastage of time. Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good tip, Shamim, in that don't just wait till the day of the meeting. So if you're able to share it, not if you're able to, it's good practice to share the agenda ahead of time. So that if someone sees their name, for example, they know they are supposed to make a presentation and they know it's for 15 minutes as an example, then they prepare the presentation for 15 minutes. But if you tell them, yeah, by the way, you make a presentation, they have no clue what time, they have no clue what time they are meant to appear, they have no clue how much time they are supposed to spend on the stage, then that will be a stretch, okay? Let me see, if there's someone else who would like to share, and it's okay, you can raise your hand, then I can pick on you, and then you can get on audio. Then we're able to hear your voice. Cool. Let me see who else. There's someone else who's like, I saw another comment here. All right. So this is what, so then besides that, what our Ronald said, communicate the meeting in time such that they participate and prepare themselves. That's a big one, Ronald. I like that idea, because there are people, someone just comes and say, hey, by the way, we have a meeting tomorrow. Well, like, what do you mean by tomorrow? I have another engagement. And that really pisses people off. It's really so annoying. And even worse, someone tells you in the morning, hey, by the way, we have a meeting in the afternoon. I forgot to tell you. What do you mean you forgot to tell me? I have other things to do. Please, it's not as professional. So tell people ahead of time. And you know what's even challenging is that there are people who they know of a certain program or outline ahead of time, but then they do not communicate. They know these ideas, they know these issues ahead of time, and yet they do not communicate ahead of time. So it's good practice to give people ample time. And again, ample time is relative. Ample time in some situations might mean you tell people 3 months ahead of time, or 2 months ahead of time, or a month ahead of time. But if it's an internal office meeting, at least a week ahead of time, okay, would be useful. And then let people share documents ahead of time. Then let people go through them. Because the problem I see with most meetings where the time gets lost is that the document is there, then people start going line by line, paragraph by paragraph from the first page. Like, no, just come with your comments or send your comments ahead of time. Then let the person respond during the meeting, something like that. Okay, cool. Now, in terms of, so I would love to know then, based on what you've learned, what did you find most useful in terms of usability and practicality? Say, what I found most useful in today's meeting, in today's webinar, I beg your pardon, on how to run productive virtual meetings is this, and this is how I'm going to apply it. Please note, I'm not just looking for knowledge, I'm looking for how you are going to also apply the knowledge. At Success Africa, we don't just talk about just the knowledge. If it's just knowledge, you can always pick these things somewhere. But how are you going to apply it? So what I would like to hear is say, what I found most useful is this, and this is how I'm going to apply it at the workplace or in my meetings or in my virtual meetings. So I would like to hear that. You can raise your hand and then you go live. I get you live to speak, or you can type in the chat box. I really would like to hear that before we wrap up, and then I'll also tell you how you can access the recording. Okay? So please go ahead and chat away. Let me give you a few seconds to type in, say, what I found most useful is this, and this is how I'm going to apply it. So Vivian, I can say clarity of outcome. So how are you going to apply it? So, so what I want to hear is, I did this. I mean, I learned this, this is how I'm going to do it, okay? Okay. All right. So, clarity of outcomes, Vivian says, I want to hear, how are you going to apply this knowledge in your workplace or wherever you are at? Sure, there is more than Vivian. I can see many people in the room, so I want to hear more. So please tell me, this is what I learned, this is how I'm going to apply it. Because when I hear that, it gives me impetus to also know that indeed, yes, a lot is happening. Okay, I'm seeing a hand, Ronald. Just a second, Ronald. Okay, Ronald, please go ahead. You're live.
Thank you so much, Ethan.
You're welcome.
First of all, I learned that we really need to prepare time. Before the meeting starts, you have to check your technology, the internet connection, to have a backup. The technology is failing you.
Yeah.
You need to communicate to the people you want to attend that meeting. We're in time, like you give an example of an internal meeting should be communicated, say like a week.
Yeah.
So the meeting.
Cool.
Then sharing the agenda. When you share the agenda, people will know what is expected of them.
Yeah.
And then the relevant documents which are needed within the meeting.
Yeah, so Ronald, just before I cut you short, the key thing is I would want to hear, say, you know what I found most useful is this, and this is how I'm going to apply it. Because now you're summarizing the point. So I like the fact that you picked all those things, but what I want to get more than anything else is, say, you know what I found most useful for me that I'm going to apply is this, and this is how I'm going to do it. Because our desire at Success Africa is that you come for these webinars and then you give us feedback later. Say, you know what, as a result of that webinar, I started doing this because we are more into changing our behavior more than just the knowledge. So what specifically are you going to do?
Now that is the last one, the sharing agreed action points. That meeting, we have to know who is going to do what and in what. Because many times we may have such meetings and no action is taken. So my key takeaway, meeting has to be productive with actions.
Cool, actions, perfect. Vivian was talking about the clarity of outcomes. Vivian says not having meetings for the sake of it. Yeah, there are people who just say, no, let's just meet. Let's meet to chat. Let's meet for an update. No, wait, what kind of update? There has to be a particular reason why. And then Debbie says, more on clarity, target objective of the meeting. What would you want to achieve? I like that. So always have a clear outcome. By the end of the meeting, we would have agreed on this budget, on a budget, which we will use for this event. So that's the outcome, you to agree on a budget. So it's clear. So tagging it to the objective. Thank you, Debbie, for that. What do you want to achieve? Fantastic. So my encouragement is all of us, let's commit to something and say, I'm going to do A, B, C, D. And in terms of moving forward, there's something I want to share with you in terms of us moving forward indeed. Let's go back to my, oops, here we go again. That's your action plan. Now coming up, we'll also be having a segment on impactful communication during a crisis for leaders. So if this is something that is going to happen on 8th May 2020, 2:30 to 4:30 actually, that was a typo. It was going to be 2 hours. And what we shall cover are how to develop high impact communication plans for you and your team, how to develop high impact communication plans for you and your team. Oh, sorry, that was a repetition. 6 ways to selling ideas to your team and getting them to say yes. Also talk about 3 core strategies to developing a personal connection with your team. Talk about a step-by-step process for packaging messages during a crisis like this. And then also effective ways to solving concerns or challenges. And there are different payment plan options. And remember again, it's going to be on 8th May, 2:30 to 4:30. Those are the payment options. You can come in as one. If you're one person, it's $30. If you're 2 to 5, it's $25. If you're 6 to 10, it's $23. And then the rest goes as noticed. There are mobile numbers on your right. And then you can do a bank transfer and all that. And having said that, I would really love to, there are a couple of things we've done which we feel would be very useful for organizations, even something as basic as what we've just done, running virtual meetings effectively. This would be useful for your organization. So if you would kindly also share with us your phone numbers, you can type them in the chat, and then we can follow up with you in terms of, communicating to you. And if you can help us sell these ideas to your teams, like we have a program around leading powerful and mid-step crisis. We did something around stress management. We did something around, now we will be doing something along the lines of crisis communication. We will be doing a program on working productively from home. All these are very useful programs which would be valuable in your organization. You can see some of us have started sharing your phone numbers, like Lillian has already shared her number for a follow-up. So please, you can share your numbers if you want us to follow up with you. Julia can call you and share with you the different things we can do for your organization. Because the truth is, in these times, people need empowerment, and we don't have to wait till all the doors are open for us to be empowered. People are dealing with stress. People are wondering how to lead in this crisis. People are wondering how to deal with technology. People are wondering how to deal with teams, customer service, and all these things. So these are things that at Success Africa would want to empower you with. Our website is at the bottom. You can also go to success-africa.com. You can also reach out directly to either Julia or Kago. Debbie, thanks for sharing your contact. I can see. And Julia, I hope you're able to see the contacts, because I know there's something someone shared yesterday and weren't able to see it. So please let me know whether you're able to see those contacts.
I can see them.
You can see them, perfect. So please share if you would like Julia to follow up with you. We would want to empower people. Right now, more than ever, people need empowerment. It's stressful, it's challenging out there. And sometimes people being at home alone, they are confused for what to do. So if they get a third voice like us, we can train your team. It doesn't have to be you as an individual. That's why we have options for people doing these things. And we also have already a recorded session on leading powerful and mid-stage crisis, if you want that. We have one coming up on Thursday afternoon on working productively from home. It's the same amounts, but then for today, we always have special offers for live webinar attendees. If you register for the 8th event on communicating a mid-stage crisis in the next 24 hours, if you step up, instead of you getting 20% off, you'll get 50% off. You can call Julia on that particular matter. Those are my personal contacts. Those are my social media pages and my number. And of course, you'll get for those who attended, who registered, who are on Zoom Live, not necessarily Facebook. And if there is any question from Facebook, Pascal, you can forward it to Julia if we have to answer it. If you need coaching, you can reach out to Julia, Kabgo, myself. That's our website, success-africa.com, or send an email, info@success-africa.com. We have other training programs which we can deliver online. Team building, leadership and management, effective communication skills, change management, personal financial planning, customer care, stress management, organizational involvement, motivational talks. By the way, if you go to the link, there should be a link. I also have educational materials, and you can always access the digital versions. You don't want to go through all of these. Again, just back to what I was talking about earlier, just note that if you would like to engage us even beyond this program, you can call those numbers, Julia or Kabgo. We come and engage you at your organization, but please share your numbers. And there's a if you go to success-africa.com/free, I believe it's free webinar registration. Julia, if you kindly pull up the link, and then we read it for people. And if you're watching this live on Facebook, or even some of you who get to these replay pages, please share them with as many people as possible. These are free segments. It's one of the ways in which we are giving back to the people, because people are coming in with whatever they can. Some giving food, some money. For us at Success Africa, we've chosen to look at the mind, giving value to the mind, the emotions, the spirit, and so the skill sets. That's what we are offering. So please, when you get to the replay pages, share them as much as possible. If you find this on Facebook or YouTube or any platform, share it as wide as possible. We'll be very grateful for that, because that's what we are meant to do. That's our hope and prayer. Julia has just shared the link. It is success-africa.com/free-webinar-registration. That's the link for all the free webinars coming up. We have a webinar on Wednesday, which I believe is about remote teams. We have a webinar on Thursday about personal finance. We have a webinar on Friday, which is about parenting during this crisis. We have another webinar on Saturday, which I believe is about customer service. So go to that link anyhow, register for the particular webinars, then you will receive the links to the Zoom links. So other than that, please, if you found this useful, please, if you find it on YouTube or Facebook, please say nice things, share them, because when you tell people what you learned and share, then it's also a gift to other people. And our desire is to reach millions of people with these messages. So thanks to the Success Africa team in the background who have been working. Thank you, Julia, for moderating. And may you have a wonderful day, and may the good Lord bless you, and stay safe, stay strong, stay happy. And I should say also keep dreaming. Vivian says thank you, shared about Success Africa to a friend this morning. Thank you, Vivian. I really appreciate that. If you keep finding these things and you share them with your teams, we really appreciate that. If, of course, Ronald says this is so resourceful. Thank you, Ethan. God bless you so much. You're welcome, Ronald. And thanks for the kind words. And thank you also for appearing, because if you were not here to attend live, we wouldn't know and we wouldn't be inspired to share more. So we'll be meeting with you again tomorrow, talking about remote teams, building stronger remote teams. And as always, stay happy. And if you need my personal help or personal coaching, you can go to ethanmusolini.com/coaching. That is ethanmusolini.com/coaching. There are different packages where I can coach you. You can also share a recommendation on Facebook to encourage others to join the upcoming webinars. Yeah, so if you go to at least my page, it's there. If you go to facebook.com/Ethan Musolini, or you go to facebook.com/Success Africa Uganda, and then you forward and recommend this, it will be helpful. Vivian said this has been helpful for me during this time. Lillian says, thank you very much. Success Africa, very much appreciated. Learning has taken place. God bless you. You're welcome, Lillian. So we are glad that learning is happening, because that's our desire also indeed. No, the other one was actually from Shamim. Shamim says, thanks, Ethan. These webinars have been very good for me during this time. And we are glad they have been good indeed. Thank you all for your kind words. Duncan Chiza says, good tips. Okay, I'm glad that they have been good. So that's it, my friend. And stay healthy again, stay happy, stay strong, keep dreaming, keep going, keep taking it one step at a time. We will win together as we stay together, learn together, and apply these things together. And indeed, may the good Lord bless you. You can share your numbers for Julia to follow you up. We can leave this up running for just